All right, so get ready, because today we're diving into the Urantia book. And let me tell you, this one's a doozy.
It really is.
It claims to reveal some, shall we say, interesting cosmic truths. We'll be focusing on paper 4, God's relation to the universe.
That's a big one.
So if you're curious about, the big guy upstairs, how did we get here, what's it all about, well, you're in for a wild ride.
It's funny you should put it that way, because one thing about the Urantia book is that it does not shy away from complexity. Like, at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like multi-layered reality, mind-blowing stuff.
Okay, so break it down for me. What kind of layers are we talking about here?
Okay, so imagine this. It's not just us little humans down here and God way up in the heavens. There are hierarchies, right? Like, angels have their own jobs and everything. And then there's this place called Havona. Yeah, it's this perfect central universe. And get this, the book says it exists basically for the joy of creation, to please the creators.
Hold on, to please the creators. I've never thought about it that way before. So where do we fit in? Humans. I mean, in this whole cosmic ladder.
That's what the book tries to explain. But here's the thing. Even those celestial beings, the angels, they don't get the whole picture of God's plan.
They don't.
No, it's like a mystery that's too big even for them to comprehend.
Talk about humbling. We spend our lives trying to figure things out, and they're saying even the most advanced beings are still scratching their heads.
Exactly.
Okay, then, so how are we supposed to wrap our heads around God and all this?
Well, the book talks about these absolutes. Think of them like cosmic forces, but even more fundamental than matter or spirit.
Absolutely. Okay, now you're just messing with me, right?
No, seriously. It's deep stuff, I know. Imagine.
Yeah.
We think of physics, the laws of the universe, as like the bedrock, right?
Right.
But it's like those absolutes are even deeper than that. They're what the laws are painted on, if that makes sense.
Okay, I think I'm kind of getting it. But if those absolutes are the foundation, how does God actually do anything, like interact?
Well, the Urantia book has some pretty different ideas about that compared to, traditional stuff.
Like what?
For example, it's very clear that God is unchanging, not jealous, and definitely not the angry type.
Really? So no smiting and whatnot?
Nope. In fact, the book straight up calls the whole appeasing God with blood thing barbaric and says higher beings find that repulsive.
Wow. Okay, so no more burnt offerings.
Not in this cosmology. The book is saying those ideas come from, well, us, our limited human view of things.
So it's like we project our own fears and stuff onto what we don't understand. But if God's not busy being angry, what about all the bad stuff that happens? Suffering in the world. How does the book square that circle?
That is where it gets really interesting. They talk about something called divine sorrow.
Divine sorrow. But how can God, who we just said isn't really capable of human emotions, feel sorrow?
It's subtle, right? What it seems to be saying is this. God isn't reacting to us the way we might think. No anger, no punishment, but our choices. Those can cause, like, a cosmic sadness. Think of a loving parent watching their kid making bad choices,
Right, they're not going to disown their kid, but it hurts to watch.
Exactly. It's not about God being mad. It's more about, the natural fallout of our actions, ripples on a huge scale,
That's a really different way to look at things. So it's less about sin and more about just consequences.
Kind of, yeah. And this leads into another fascinating concept. Nature is God's physical habit, as they put it.
A physical habit? What in the world does that even mean?
So nature itself isn't literally God, okay? But it's a manifestation of God's actions. Imagine it like this. Maybe you have a habit of jogging every morning.
Right. Can't say that I do, but go on.
So the jogging isn't you, exactly, but it reflects something about you. Routine, maybe, taking care of your health.
Got it. So nature, with all its laws and everything, that's like God's jog. It reflects the divine, but it's not God itself.
You got it. And just like our habits sometimes have, unintended consequences, the book says nature is both majestic and marred.
Marred. So are we saying the flaws we see, those are like flawed habits? Whose flaws are we even talking about here, though? God's flaws.
That's what's so interesting. What it seems to be saying is those flaws aren't God's, but they're introduced through, free will.
Free will.
The actions of beings in creation. That includes us, by the way. God sets the stage, the basic rules, but how the play goes, that's influenced by everyone on stage.
Whoa. So we're like co-creators then. That's a lot of pressure.
It is, isn't it? And it makes you wonder about free will, consequences, all of it. Really makes you think.
My brain is already full, and I feel like we're just getting started. This is incredible. We'll be right back after a quick break to dive even deeper into these mind-bending concepts from the Urantia book. Stay with us. Okay, we're back. That whole nature is God's habit thing. Still with me.
It's a mind bender, isn't it? This idea that we can, like, see how God works through nature, but also that, well, we have a hand in things, too.
It's almost like, I don't know, imagine a giant tapestry. You can see the patterns, the design, like the big picture, God's hand in it.
I like that.
But then you realize it's still being woven. Each thread is a choice, from someone or something.
Right. And the Urantia book uses that kind of imagery to explain why there's both good and bad, order and chaos. It's not that God's up there controlling every little thing. It's more like free will is baked in from the start.
So it's not a spectator sport, this universe thing. We're actually, I don't know, stitching away.
We're stitching, we're adding our own flair. Makes you think twice about those choices we make, huh?
For sure, because if every little thing matters, every act of kindness or, the opposite, that's a lot of weight on our shoulders. It's both exhilarating and kind of terrifying.
Absolutely. It makes those everyday decisions feel different. We like to think we're small, but we're part of something much bigger.
Which reminds me, speaking of big pictures, if we're all doing our thing, what about God's plan? Is there still room for that idea in all of this?
That's where those absolutes come back in. Remember those, the fundamental forces we were talking about.
Right, the deeper than physics stuff.
Exactly. It's like those absolutes, they're not just about the material world. They influence minds, spirits.
So even with free will, there's still like a nudge in a certain direction. For the universe, even for us.
In a way, yeah. God provides the canvas, the paint, but we get to paint the picture. But those colors we choose, how we make those brushstrokes, there's something guiding that process towards something greater.
Okay, I think I get that. But it still makes you wonder, right? If those absolutes are so powerful, do we really have a choice? Are we really free if we're being influenced by these, cosmic forces we can't even see?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the Urantia book, it acknowledges that question, but it doesn't pretend to have all the answers.
So are they saying we're stuck?
Not at all. It's more like we're limited. Our human brains, they can only grasp so much about God, about these absolutes, about what's really real. It's like trying to understand the ocean by looking at a single drop of water.
That's a good analogy.
But that doesn't mean looking at that drop is pointless. The Urantia book actually says it's through seeking, questioning, that we grow spiritually, push the boundaries, even if we never know everything.
So it's more about the journey than the destination.
Exactly. We're not going to solve the universe today, and that's okay.
All right, then. So if we can't really grasp those forces or God's big plan, what are we supposed to do with our lives? How do we make sense of any of this?
That's where faith comes in, but not the way we usually think about it. It's not about blind belief or following rules. It's about trusting the process, trusting that growth, evolution, it's happening all around us and within us.
So instead of fearing what we don't know, we should, lean into it. That's different from how a lot of religions talk about faith.
It is different, and it's part of what makes the Urantia book so interesting to talk about. It's like we're all part of this huge play, but no one has the whole script. We're writing it as we go, and those choices we make, they're all part of the performance.
Wow, I like that. So we're all actors then. That's a cool way to think about it.
Right, and every performance needs each person to bring their own thing, but also work together, right? Our choices matter, but so do our relationships, what we build together.
It makes you realize that maybe it's okay to not have all the answers, like the searching, the questioning. That's part of it, too.
Beautifully said. And honestly, I think that's at the heart of the Urantia book. It's not a book of answers. It's a book that makes you ask better questions.
It's about looking at things in a new way.
Right.
And maybe living a better life because of it.
Yeah.
More compassion, more understanding.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So we've been through a lot. And I got to say, this Urantia book, it really makes you think about things in a whole new light.
It does, doesn't it? It's not every day you come across a text that manages to be both, intellectually stimulating and spiritually resonant at the same time.
Totally. And one thing that really struck me is how it reframes the whole idea of faith. It's not about checking boxes or blindly accepting what you're told. It's about embracing the unknown.
It's funny you say that because for me, that's one of the most liberating aspects of this whole cosmology. We're constantly reminded that we're part of something so much bigger than ourselves, something that's always growing, changing. And yeah, we don't have all the answers, but we get to be part of the unfolding.
That's a really beautiful way to put it. It's both empowering and humbling at the same time, right?
Right.
Like knowing that our choices have this ripple effect throughout the cosmos.
Absolutely. And it makes you consider the implications of those choices, doesn't it? It's not just about our own little corner of the universe anymore. It's about recognizing our interconnectedness with everything.
We're all in this together, for better or worse.
Precisely. And that brings us to, I think, the heart of the Urantia book's message, which is this. It's not about achieving some kind of cosmic perfection or having all the answers. It's about embracing the journey, about striving to live in a way that reflects the highest ideals: love, compassion, understanding, those kinds of things.
So it's not about the destination, it's about how we travel, so to speak.
Exactly. And it's about trusting that even when we stumble or make mistakes, we're still part of this incredible tapestry of existence.
I love that. It's a very hopeful message, don't you think?
Incredibly hopeful. And it's one that I think we could all use a little more of these days.
Couldn't agree more. So if we were to, sum up everything we've talked about,
Yeah.
what would you say are the biggest takeaways for our listeners? The things they should really remember from the Urantia book and this whole idea of God's relation to the universe?
Well, for starters, I think it challenges us to rethink our preconceived notions about God. We're not talking about a judgmental, vengeful deity here, but rather a loving, unchanging presence that permeates everything.
Right. More cosmic parent, less vengeful overlords.
Exactly. And flowing from that, this idea that our choices, our actions, they really do matter. We're not just along for the ride. We're co-creators with the divine, shaping the universe in ways we may not even fully comprehend.
It's almost like we're all artists, adding our own brushstrokes to this grand cosmic canvas.
I love that analogy. And lastly, but perhaps most importantly, I think the Urantia book reminds us of the importance of seeking, of questioning, of never being afraid to dive deep into the mysteries of existence. Because it's in that pursuit, that exploration, that we truly discover who we are and what our place is in the grand scheme of things.
It's about embracing the mystery and realizing that the journey itself is just as important as whatever destination we might think we're heading towards.
Beautifully said. And on that note, I think it's time for us to wrap up this incredible deep dive.
It is, sadly, but what a journey it's been. To our amazing listeners, thank you so much for joining us on this exploration of the Urantia book. It's a text that's filled with so much to ponder, so much to challenge our assumptions, and so much to inspire. We hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity and maybe even left you with more questions than answers. And that's okay. Keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep your minds open to the infinite possibilities that exist within you and all around you. Until next time,